Welcome to DETV's Every Woman. Today's episode is titled Power in Pink, Strength in Fighting Against Breast Cancer. Being in October, we want to dedicate this episode to all people affected by breast cancer. This episode is sponsored by Delaware Health Equity Coalition, and we would like to thank DETV and everyone for joining us today. Let's go right into this special conversation. I'm going to start by introducing our guests. I'll start with Brianna.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brianna Denby.
Thank you. And Tanya.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tanya Moore.
April.
I'm April Love Reynolds.
Thank you. And Dr. Quarterman.
I'm Renee Quarterman.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's get into some statistics to get us started with our today's conversation. As of the latest data in 2023, here are some key statistics about breast cancer by race in the United States. The first fact is this. While African American and Caucasian women are diagnosed with breast cancer at similar rates, African American women die from breast cancer at 40% higher rate. Fact 2, Delaware has the highest rate in the United States for late-stage breast cancer among women under the age of 50. Fact 3, Delaware has the highest rate of triple-negative breast cancer in the United States, especially among African American women. And fact 4, nearly 1 in 5 breast cancer cases in Delaware can be attributed to alcohol use. Breast cancer is a significant problem in Delaware and potentially a silent epidemic for young women of color. And that's why we are here today. Here with me today to shed light on this topic are our guests sitting with me here on the couch. So each one of them will share their story and their experiences around detection and treatment. And we're going to start with you, Brianna.
Oh, me up first. Well, hi everyone again. My name is Brianna Denby, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 36. I'm 3 years out, so I'm a breast cancer survivor of 3 years. Thank you. Thank you so much. And it has been a journey. So I found out about the breast cancer during the pandemic. So it was in 2021. The world was kind of open, but not really. And I was someone that was very good about keeping up with all of my maintenance appointments. And so it was time for me to get my annual checkup with my OBGYN. And so I went to that annual checkup, and she knows me. And as part of that check, she did a breast check, and she went across my breast, and she put her finger under my armpit, and she felt a lump. And she said, "Don't you feel that?" And I said, "Well, I kind of thought that was a gland." And she said, no. And so she said, "I want you to get a mammogram." And so that was before the guidelines changed, because I think at that time we were advised to get mammograms at the age of 40. So at 36, I'm like, oh, it's not time for a mammogram yet. And she said, "No, I want you to go, and I want you to go this week." And so I did just that. I got the mammogram. There was a lot of whispers, and then I had to then get a biopsy, and then the biopsy turned out to be actually cancer. So I was diagnosed with stage 2 HER2 positive breast cancer. I asked, like, where did this come from? And the advice given was environment. And so the treatment recommendation, so let me jump back. So because as we have the panel here, Dr. Quarterman was one of the first doctors I met after I got the news of the lump from my OBGYN. And my OBGYN recommended that I call Dr. Quarterman. And so I just didn't know where to turn. I didn't know what the steps would be. I just didn't know anything. I was scared to death. And Dr. Quarterman navigated me through that. So I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
And she still does. So we became fast friends, and I cried in the office. And so it was just a journey. But she encouraged me. And so she encouraged me to keep going. And so what I said to her was, and I'm an attorney, and I said, I don't know how to go through breast cancer and be an attorney. And so she said, the way that you eat an elephant is one bite at a time, right? And so that's what I did. And so the journey for me was to get chemo, and I was so worried about chemotherapy. But I got all the information. And so what was good in that situation was the doctors told me what to expect. They were very clear. You're going to lose your hair. You're gonna lose your eyebrows. You might lose your eyelashes, toenails, maybe fingernails too, maybe. And so I sort of was ready, right? I like bought all the hair things, and I was like, I bought some clippers. I did all the things, and so I was more so ready for that. So there were, the side effects of, nausea, fatigue, and all of that. And I worked while going through chemotherapy. Wow. It was during the pandemic. I was basically hiding in plain sight. I was able to pop the wig on, slide up to my desk, and turn the Zoom camera on, and nobody knew anything unless I wanted them to know. And I was being so private about it because I was in the throes of trying to navigate my career and get to the next ladder rung and try to make partner. And I just felt like I just didn't want anybody to know that I was having this issue or was different in any way. I mean, of course, I had to tell my employer, and then you tell who you need to, and they start telling other people that probably shouldn't know. But nevertheless, I navigated that. I decided to get a double mastectomy because I did not want the cancer to come back. And so that was a very involved surgery, and I chose to undergo cosmetic breast reconstruction, which also was a long process, but I'm over it all. And I'm here before you guys today to tell you that I was able to eat the elephant, thank you, one bite at a time. And so that is my story.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
Sharon. Tanya,
Thanks.
can you tell us your story?
Okay, my name is Tanya. I was diagnosed with breast cancer 2006. I was 38 years old. I had my first mammogram at 35, like the baseline, so I didn't have any issues. I worked in a doctor's office. I had been working in a family practice doctor, so I was familiar with doctors. I was familiar with, knowing your body, doing checks and stuff like that. I realized I had a lump under my arm, and I went to see my family doctor, and she thought that it was a hair bump. Mm-hmm. So she gave me an antibiotic and told me to come back in 10 days. So when I went back in 10 days, the lump was still there, but now it was like painful, it was hurting. So she sent me to see a surgeon, and it was a surgeon that I was familiar with. His name was Dr. Wakamatsu. I went to see him, and as soon as I went to see him and he did the exam, he checked my breast, he said, "You have a mass." I was like, "A mass?" So he wanted me to have a mammogram, an ultrasound. So that next day I went to the hospital, I had an ultrasound, I had a mammogram, and I went back to his office the next day, and it was confirmed that it was a large mass on my right breast. So he told me everything was gonna be good, they were gonna act aggressively. So I ended up having surgery, like February the 6th, I had my first surgery, and they did a partial mastectomy. And at the time, my breasts, I had large breasts, like a D cup. So when they removed the breast, I still had a nice portion left. So out of the wedge that they removed, I had 17 positive lymph nodes. Mm. So he removed the lymph nodes and did the partial mastectomy. I had to have chemotherapy, I had to do radiation. I couldn't work with chemo because I worked in the hospital, so I just thought that to be safe not to work. And plus I was so sick, with the chemo, I lost my hair, and they said 17 days you would lose your hair. In 17 days, I lost my hair. Yeah. Like we cut it down low, but you're bald, and that's a hard adjustment. I mean, I always wore my hair short, but short hair and being bald is a big adjustment. Oh, yeah. People say, wear a wig or wear a scarf, but if you're bald and you're not used to that, it doesn't work. So I had a great support system. I think if I didn't have the support system that I did, I wouldn't have been able to get through it. I lost taste, my tongue turned black, my fingernails turned black. It was just a long journey. You feel different. And when you look in the mirror at yourself, you look different. Mm-hmm. It's like, for me, I kept thinking I felt like I looked like a skeleton. But I got through it. I had small children. So like I said, I had a good support system. After the chemo, after the radiation, and all that, I started feeling better. I went back to work so I could do radiation while I was working. You know, I did 8 weeks of radiation, but like I said, it is a journey. And if you don't have the support system it's hard to get through. It really is. It's hard to get through. So after my breast healed, I ended up having surgery on the other breast just because I had one large breast and one smaller breast. So, but I'm here, living every day. I mean, so I'm thankful. I'm grateful. I really am. So,
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
April?
So I just celebrated 4 years of being in remission. So excited. So my diagnosis came a year before yours. And so I found out I went October 29th, 2019 and had my annual exam. And my gynecologist, Dr. Gordon, absolutely love him. He is retired, but at the time, I had just had a mammogram that May. And so he did the exam and he felt something and he said, let's be safe. Let's have you go and have another mammogram. And within a couple weeks, I learned that I had triple negative breast cancer. Wow. And so initially when I had the appointment with the surgeon, I said, oh, triple negative, that's awesome, because negative is something good usually. Well, not in this case. I learned that it made the cancer more aggressive, and so they had to act very aggressive. The treatment had to be aggressive. And so I fast forwarded, I had a lump. Well, I had the port placed in my chest in December, right after Christmas. And then January, I started chemo, and that was 2020. Chemo was going well, and I had a Brave the Shave party, had all my family and friends come and shave my hair, because with cancer, there are a lot of things you don't have control over. Right. And I thought, this is something I do have control over. Yeah. So I had all my family and friends shave my head. But in addition to losing my hair, I also lost my husband of 21 years. He decided he did not want to be married while I was going through chemotherapy. And so in March, I made the decision to have him leave. And then March 13th, COVID hit and everything shut down. So here it is, my children are away at University of Delaware. I was home by myself. Thankfully, they had to return home because God has a plan. And his plan was that I was not going to fight it by myself, that my children would be there to support me. And indeed, they did that. And so, I had 5 months of chemotherapy. I had 30 rounds of radiation. I had a lumpectomy. And let me tell you, ladies, I am better than ever. Wow. Better than ever. I think back to, those days, those nights when I cried every night in the shower. Because when you are going through that, especially when you have chemotherapy and radiation and all of that, you experience every side effect. I experienced every side effect, but I knew that there would be an end. And I had family and friends who were supporting me, and I'm a principal, and so I did have to take a leave of absence because all those little germs, I couldn't be with them. But I think everything happens for a reason, and my goal right now is to spread awareness. I want women to know. At 48, I was diagnosed. You were 37. You were 38. Like, we have to be, vigilant. We have to check our breasts monthly. Yes. We have to, make sure that if something feels off, we always have that gut feeling, because I had a feeling something wasn't right. I just didn't want to listen to that because I just didn't. But we know. And so that is what my goal is now, is to make sure that I spread awareness that, 1 in, is it 9 women? Or 12. 1 in 12. Okay. Yeah. So, 1 in 12 women. So you think about this audience here. There are 3 of us. Maybe we've taken it for you ladies, but a friend, a family member may be diagnosed. So it's just important for us to be super aware.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing the story.
Yeah.
Dr. Quarterman, you want to just tell a little bit about yourself and your practice?
Sure. So my name is Renee Quarterman. I'm a breast surgeon. I'm the owner of Delaware Breast Care in Wilmington. We opened in 2019. And so we are
Just in time.
Yeah, just in time, just in time, 5 years old. And we've actually recently merged with medical oncology hematology consultants. So we've got more support and expanded and part of a national network. But I opened the practice to come back to Delaware and serve my community, and particularly my Black women. I just feel a special place. This is my home. And so I've just been so pleased with how we've been welcomed back in the community and all of the help that we're giving to everyone, whether they're patients or loved ones, they need education. It's been great. I will correct myself. I said 1 in 12. It's 1 in 8. Yeah, so I apologize for that.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I wanted to talk a little bit, and I hope you can chime in on this, because each one of you had a similar path in the sense that you had chemo and radiation, and you each had a different kind of surgery. So can you talk about the decisions that you made in terms of lumpectomy, partial mastectomy, bilateral mastectomy, and then Dr. Quarterman, if you can chime in on sort of what that decision-making process looks like from the surgeon's perspective. But if we can start with you, Brianna.
So I did not undergo radiation. And I think I did not have to undergo radiation because I chose the option of double mastectomy. But that was a personal choice. I had the decision to either do a lumpectomy or a single mastectomy or a double mastectomy. And that was one of the very hard decisions I needed to make. But I figured because of my age, I didn't want to have to go around wondering, did it come back? Is it back? And I just didn't want that cloud over me. I just wanted peace of mind. The surgeons were very clear that it was going to be a rougher surgery. So the double mastectomy would be a rougher surgery, longer healing process than the lumpectomy. But at the end of the day, I just wanted that peace of mind. And so that did turn out to be true. It was a long process, but I do have peace of mind. Mm-hmm. And I do believe for me that was priceless.
Sure. Tony?
I think I just trusted the surgeon. I don't think I had the option of a lumpectomy. He said that it was like a large mass. So they did like a wedge resection. Mm-hmm. So, but I also let them know that once they got in there, if it was really bad, that I was okay. They could take the whole breast. I didn't feel like that I needed it or it made me more of a person, So I was okay with my decision. So, and I'm glad I chose that, because I haven't had any other issues, thank God.
Sure.
Yes, so I didn't have a choice. I wanted to have a double mastectomy, but my surgeon and my oncologist, they said that it was not necessary, and they went over the statistics and explained to me that my chances of recurrence with the chemo, the radiation, with the surgery, and because I didn't have any cancer in my lymph nodes, that was the option that I should choose. And so I chose to get the lumpectomy because I didn't have a choice. Mm-hmm. I do understand what you're saying, Brianna, because that was my thought. Get rid of both of these babies. I don't want them. They have caused me enough problems. But
I sort of thought they were like ticking time bombs. But I will say that, in my mind too, everybody encouraged me in such a way, well, you'll get a new set and you won't have to wear a bra. And so all that is true. But, it's not easy. They're never the same. I'm always self-conscious. I do have scars. And so it's not as pretty as I thought it was going to be. Yeah. But it still gave me peace of mind, which I think just overshadowed all of those doubts or issues that I may have had.
Sure. Dr. Quarterman.
So when you talk about surgery for breast cancer, the goal is just to remove it. And you can do it 2 ways. There's breast conserving therapy, which is lumpectomy followed by radiation, or there's a mastectomy. And so usually you pick a lumpectomy when the area that needs to be removed is relatively small compared to the breast size. You do a mastectomy when you have to remove a lot of breast tissue to get margins clear around the disease. But most women definitely have a choice. And while a lumpectomy and radiation is faster surgery, easier recovery, less pain, a lot of women prefer mastectomy. Between the 2 options, for most women, lumpectomy and radiation or mastectomy, they're absolutely the same. One is not better than the other. We've studied this for decades. One choice doesn't lengthen life compared to the other. So for most women, it's really up to them. And so the surgeon certainly should chime in to say, looking at your history, looking at what your principles are, looking at what your priorities are, this is what I think would be better for you. It's ultimately up to the woman. We talk about it's your body, your choice. And a lot of women do feel that I got this when I was young. You're telling me that if I do a lumpectomy, I'm in for screening for breast cancer twice a year for the next 30 to 40 years. I definitely don't want that. I don't want to be worried that something's been missed with every physical examination. I would rather have mastectomy. So it's definitely a personal choice. And I will say that reconstruction following breast cancer surgery, whether it's a lumpectomy, partial mastectomy, full mastectomy, reconstruction is covered by insurance. It didn't used to always be that way. So women can get a lumpectomy, and if that breast is smaller or it's got a different shape, a reconstructive surgeon can work simultaneously with the breast surgeon to restore size and shape to the breasts. Certainly with the mastectomy, there can be all different options for reconstruction. So what's been great about that is that it took away a barrier that was showing a discrepancy in the type of surgery that women had. So now every woman has the same option regardless of ability to pay. It doesn't matter.
That's great.
So it's funny you should say that, because I was going to actually ask you about that. I recently, as a primary care physician, I do a lot of women's exams, clinical breast exams. And I had a patient who recently was diagnosed with breast cancer. And as I spoke with her about her options, one of her concerns was that her copay, so her co-insurance for a mastectomy versus a lumpectomy was radically different. And so in her mind, she was thinking, do I go for a lumpectomy because it will be less expensive for me from a co-insurance standpoint versus a mastectomy, which she really felt like she needed because, like you, she wanted a definitive treatment. And that was the first time I had heard that, and I wasn't sure if you could comment on that aspect of it. I was really quite shocked that someone would actually have to be in that situation. And I said, listen, if I have to go out and bake brownies for you, we're gonna make sure you have the decision, you can make the decision that you want. But have you heard of that instance where it comes to having to make a decision?
I haven't heard of that. That's very discouraging to hear. I guess I'm not surprised the way insurance plays games with our lives, that's a reality for some women. But I will say at this point still, doctors do have a lot of sway in terms of talking personally to doctors and insurance companies and writing letters to get things approved. So that's definitely an instance where I'm with you. If this is what you want, I will work with you to make sure that we do it and you get it done in the most affordable way possible.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty shocking.
Like she's buying shoes. Do you get the cheaper ones or you buy?
Right.
And then your feet are hurting.
Yes,
No,
exactly.
you don't want that,
Yeah.
Go with what
When you go to
need.
the podiatrist because your foot hurts because you have the cheaper shoe.
Yes.
That's exactly right. So good. One thing I just want to kind of back up and talk about very briefly is for you, Dr. Corman. We've talked about how everyone sort of was experiencing their breast lumps. I'm glad there were clinical breast exams involved. Can you talk about how, as you've come back to Delaware to practice, are there any patterns that you're seeing that we should be aware of as women in this community?
So I will say that we are seeing breast cancer among younger and younger women, not just in Delaware, but nationwide. And we're trying to understand why. A lot of people think, well, it's genetic mutations, but that's maybe 15, 20% of the time. So most women, we don't really know specifically why, but we're all learning that it's very important for any woman of any age, if she feels anything, she needs to see someone. Don't assume that you're under 40, so it's not time for mammogram, so it can't possibly be a breast cancer. You're in your 20s, it's probably something related to your hormones. It really needs to be evaluated. We are just finding breast cancer in younger and younger women.
What role do you think genetics are playing? And urban versus suburban versus rural communities?
Well, it's interesting. There's genetics and there's epigenetics. So genetics, I like to tell my patients, if you think about DNA, like a blueprint that is in each cell. That blueprint's going to tell that cell what to do for its entire life. If there's an error in the blueprint, that's a mutation. And some mutations have no effect on the cell. Mutations can do anything. So one thing they can do is increase the chance that that cell will turn into cancer. So we now know for all women with breast cancer in this country, maybe about 20% of the time, they develop the disease because of a mutation, which means most of the time it's not caused by a mutation, but you still have to think about it. There are a lot of mutations that exist that we just haven't discovered yet. So you might look at someone and say, oh, look at her family history. There's got to be a mutation there. You test her for the mutations that you know about and they're all normal. It doesn't mean that there's nothing there. You just don't have the science to find it yet. But there is something called epigenetics, which is where environment affects your gene expression. So you don't have an error in your blueprint, but there's something else sticking to your blueprint that changes the instruction. Things like your diet, stress. We know that there are studies in Jim Crow South affects how your Black women's breast cells kind of react and result in more aggressive cancers. Wow. There's a lot that we're learning. COVID had an effect. Stress, fear, anxiety. So it's pretty complicated. Pretty complex.
Well, it sounds like it. And I think we're going to get into that a little bit more in a little bit. I hope everybody is enjoying these conversations. Yeah. All right, fantastic. Well, don't go anywhere. We will be right back. We're going to just take a quick break.
If you're a woman that needs help and needs some wraparound services, we at the Delaware Health Equity Coalition, Dr. Sydney Teal, Dr. Velma Scantleberry, and myself, we'd be more than happy to see you. We are located right in 19802 on Boehner Boulevard. See you soon.
Looking for a reliable and efficient way to travel around Delaware? DART has a variety of routes and schedules to meet your needs, providing service in Newcastle, Kent, and Sussex counties. Whether you are commuting to work or exploring the sights and sounds of the state, our fleet of buses are well maintained, equipped with modern amenities. Public transportation is the greener alternative. Plan your trip today. Download our transit apps or visit dartfirststate.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to Power and Paint, Strength in Fighting Against Breast Cancer. I am your host once again, Dr. Sydney Teal, and I'm here joined by my lovely counterparts here, Tanya, Dr. Quarterman, April, and Brianna. And we're going to start off this segment getting a little deeper into what's going on behind the scenes with breast cancer treatment, self-image, what's happening in your life, emotionally, spiritually, physically. So I'm going to ask everyone, everyone sort of told their story. April told us a lot more, which we really want to dig into, right? This is a journey, and it's a lifelong journey. And you hope to have a village, and Tanya had spoken about having a village. Can you talk about going through your experiences? What was it like for you, Brianna, going through the pandemic, no less?
Yeah, so going through it during the pandemic, I could only bring a support person, a family member, otherwise, to my exam or appointments. But when I was going through chemotherapy treatment, they could not come back to the treatment area. And so I was alone for that. But, technology is good. So I, would bring all my things. I would prop up my phone or my iPad and I would call a girlfriend on FaceTime sometimes. And I think by me doing that, I think it helped to ease some of the stress that she may have had about what I was going through because she didn't know, right? So she could kind of see what was going on from one treatment to the next. But I sort of got used to that's just what it was. I think that at that part of the pandemic, being able to bring a family member was very helpful for me, and I'm grateful that I had that. But I definitely had self-image issues because, again, I told a select group of people. I was very selective about it because there was so much information I was taking in. There were so many unknowns. I didn't know, what decision I had to make with regard to lumpectomy, mastectomy. I didn't know how, if the chemo was going to be successful, just so many different decisions. And I just wasn't ready for all of the questions or any hint of negativity, right? And sometimes I don't think that individuals mean to be negative, but sometimes they just, invite information that is just not helpful or useful. So I sort of tried to protect that space because I had enough going on because I was trying to manage work. And also, I've talked about it already because I was like hiding. I was somebody that like would not leave the house without the wig up until a certain point, because then I did have a girlfriend, a close girlfriend of mine, who said, take that wig off. Because as the hair started coming back, and she said, and you look good. And it was very empowering for the first time. And I see my sorors in the audience because that was the first time I went out in public at a chapter meeting when I first told my story without the wig on. And that was so empowering for me because then I had the choice. If I wanted to put it on because that's how I wanted to look, that was fine, but I didn't feel like I was beholden to it. And that was very important for me. So that was a piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we know that as women, especially Black women, our hair is our crown.
Yes.
Okay, and so we love going to the salon, getting our hair done. And so when you go bald, I thought, okay, I don't look too bad, but when I lost all my eyebrows, my eyelashes, I just thought, oh my goodness, every strand of hair on my body was gone.
Right.
That was difficult because that's when you look sick. But I am so thankful that we have wigs. I have magnetic eyelashes. I was penciling on eyebrows. I was like, okay, if you didn't know, you didn't know. Right. But unlike you, I was very public with it. And, my ex-husband had posted this first post letting everyone know that I had breast cancer. And so it was put out there for everyone to know. But then I took it as, maybe my journey will help inspire some others. But it is difficult. And for me personally, because I went through a separation after being married for 21 years, during the time that I was, battling cancer, I didn't feel pretty. I mean, losing my hair, I was that, girl with long hair. And so losing my hair, losing my husband, I thought, oh my goodness. I was like, God, I talk to God every day, all day. Why? Why me? What's going on? And he spoke to me in more than one ways. I didn't need the hair. I didn't need that husband. What I needed was him, to have my faith in him and, my family and my friends. And sometimes women, we put too much into a man and not enough in ourselves. And so the cancer journey just really helped me to discover who I am. And,
So you had hot flashes?
Oh, did we ever? Oh my, you just have, sweat dripping down at any moment, right?
I had it all.
How did you hide the hot flashes when you were on when you were on your screen? When you were...
I just might have come out of the blazer. I just, had all the things. I mean, I think the night sweats is really what got to me. And I'm buying special sheets for night sweats on Amazon. But, you have the little prop fan. And so I brought that everywhere. And so I just made it cute.
Well, let me tell you, chemo brain is a real thing. Oh my goodness, anyone who has gone through it, I would say to my children, I really forgot conversations. Like, it was scary. I went back to work and, a teacher would say, remember we met and spoke earlier? And I'm like, oh no. And so I would just tell people, chemo brain. Now, things get better. But then when you start to age, you don't know what's going on. Is it the chemo or is it just aging? But there are things that happen to you afterwards. And so that is what people don't talk about. They expect you're done with the treatment. You should be back to normal. Right. But, I experienced anxiety,
Yes.
and I said, PTSD, I know that I have it. I can't even watch a show, a movie with a person who has cancer, a woman especially. And so I think it will probably forever be part of the fiber of who I am because of that experience. But, just know chemo brain is a real thing.
It's when you do your yearly checkup. It's like anxiety for me. It's like, oh my God. What if I go? What if? But it's like, you have to go. You have to keep up on it, not saying, oh, I don't want to go because it's going to be bad. You just have to think positive and continue.
Here's the thing. If you do get diagnosed, I mean, the likelihood that you're going to die is slim to none, especially with early detection. You know, I go October 29th, and it's so interesting because 2019, I went to my gynecologist on October 29th. So I have a mammogram on October 29th. And so I'm a little nervous every time we go. You just don't know. But I know that it's important for me. If I do have it, I know that I have a team of doctors who will help me through it. I have a family, a village, and, you know, God does not put anything in our lives that we can't get through. And so, you know, that's my testimony. And I believe it. And one thing I know we did not talk about, clinical trials. And to all of my Black sisters out there, I am part of Oncology Patients Advocates for Clinical Trials at the Helen F. Graham Cancer Center. Because when I went through my treatment, I thought my hair will grow back, I'll be back. And then when it started to grow in, I realized, ooh, it's so thin. It's a little different than it was. And I asked my oncologist, and she shared that the regimen that they have for most breast cancers, the participants were white women when it comes to breast cancer. And I understand why we typically don't participate in clinical trials, but things have changed. We have to do it now for all of the sisters who are going to follow us. It's so important that we participate in these clinical trials to see how these chemotherapies, how these medications impact us. So, yeah, I know you said you participated.
I participated in a clinical trial too. The doctor asked, and I was like, oh, yeah, I will. So.
Why did you do it?
I don't know. I don't know. I think to help with research, you know?
I think traditionally a lot of Black women think that they're not going to enroll in a clinical trial, or women in general, maybe I won't get the tried and true, maybe I'm going to get the test medication, are they really protecting my interests? But there's a lot of work that goes into really considering and respecting and not doing harm to the individual who's signing up for a clinical trial. It's free of charge. Women who enroll in clinical trials are usually watched more closely, and if they ever want to drop out and do whatever the standard is, they can. So the more that women know that, I think the more women that will enroll, and definitely the better. I mean, you talk about breast cancer being not the scary diagnosis it used to be. It's very rarely a death sentence anymore. And a lot of that is because of what we know and how we're able to tailor and personalize cancer care for every single woman. And that's because of clinical trials. And even more that we're knowing now about the experience of breast cancer in Black women is because of the Black women who have enrolled in trials. So I applaud you for that. We need more of that.
We have to.
Yeah, I love that. That's really fantastic. We had talked a little bit about genetics just before the break, and I was hoping we could dive a little bit back into that. I think you had shared, do you have a family member? Does anyone have family members with breast cancer?
I do, yep. And my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer maybe like almost 10 years before me. And Dr. Quarterman recommended that I undergo genetic testing. And because I shared my mother's health history, I also impressed upon her to undergo the genetic testing and share results, compare results. And the interesting thing was that we did not have the same type of breast cancer. And the genetic variants that appeared in my report were different from hers. Wow. So we did not have the same type of breast cancer. And so as Dr. Quarterman mentioned, environmental factors, I think that was sort of what I thought was the reasoning for my breast cancer. It wasn't anything that I could have done or that I should have done differently. It's just sort of how, we consume the world, or how the world consumes us, whether it be plastics or the food that you eat or otherwise, or maybe the zip code you live in.
Yes.
Right, in the soil beneath.
That's correct.
And water you're drinking.
That's correct.
Yes. And I did the genetic testing as well. I just wanted to make sure, especially for my daughter, because I have a daughter and a son, but more for my daughter, I just wanted to see, do I have the gene? Because if I had the gene, then I wanted her to undergo the genetic testing as well. And so it was really important for me to learn that, no, I don't. But, I've been in Delaware now for 30 years. And so could it be the zip code? I don't know.
You touch upon your children, your daughter and your son. But I always like to tell patients that men can get breast cancer
Yes.
too.
Right.
And
Yes.
if there's a mutation that's running in the family, it's usually associated with more than just one type of cancer. So it affects men and women, and also your sons could have children, and so their children could inherit the gene too. So that information is important for every family member.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. Now, I don't have the gene, but could my children have the gene because I had breast cancer? Like, could it be underlying? Could they still have
They
it?
wouldn't get it from you.
Okay.
They wouldn't get it from you. If you don't have the mutation, then you wouldn't pass it on.
Okay.
Breast or cancer cells are mutated cells, but they are not inherited, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, wow. So I have the gene. I have 3 children. My 2 daughters, they don't have the gene. My son, he wants to be tested too. But my father had prostate cancer, and 15 years after being diagnosed, he ended up getting pancreatic cancer, and he passed from the pancreatic cancer. So, but my mother, she didn't have breast cancer either. So we were just like wondering, like, where did the gene, maybe I got it from.
Well, can I ask you what gene it is?
I have HER2 positive, so that's all I know.
Okay. Is there a mutation, like a BRCA mutation or
Yes,
anything like
it
that?
is.
Okay. Because prostate cancer and pancreatic cancer are 2 cancers you have to think about that are associated with the mutation.
Oh, wow.
So thinking about not just your mother's history, but your father's history, what kind of cancer did anybody in the family have?
Okay.
And how old were they when they were diagnosed? So it's not just breast cancer, it's not just ovarian cancer. It's colon, it's pancreas, it's melanoma, it's prostate. It's a lot of different types of cancers and patterns.
And he was 47 when he was diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Yeah, that's a red flag. Prostate cancer under age 50 is physicians usually think, well, maybe there's something premature there.
That's right.
Well, and I think it's important because, as we talk about Black folks, we're so private. We're so private about our health.
Well, yes, that's right.
So
Yes.
private. And, even I, was private about it to a certain extent. And so when you think about what family member had what, so that you would know that that's a sign, or you always get asked, what is your family's health history? And you might know, the immediate branches off the tree, but you don't know a whole lot beyond that. And that's tough. And so I think it's important to impress upon your family to share what's going on, because you need to be able to inform your healthcare providers about what sort of issues may be prevalent in your health.
My mother, when I got diagnosed, she said, "Oh, I think your cousin died from breast cancer," but she didn't even know.
Yeah.
And so I think people did keep it very private because it was like a dirty word years ago.
Right.
And it's crazy. I remember my first year teaching, one of my colleagues got diagnosed, and she was the first person I knew who was diagnosed. But since then, it's like I've been hearing more and more about people being diagnosed. And so it's interesting that Delaware, there is a higher number of Black women being diagnosed compared to the population.
That's correct. That's right.
It's funny when I meet Black women that are diagnosed with breast cancer, I feel a connection. I feel like close. It's like
We're sisters
it's
now.
like we're like related. We've had something together. And I love the stories. You hear all the different stories and how they deal with it. So
Great stories of survivorship, no doubt. So we're going to now switch to our Q&A and ask our audience to see if they have any questions. Yes, go ahead.
I have a question.
What'd you say?
I'm Valeria Muhammad. I'm a nurse practitioner, family nurse practitioner, and one of the pain points of it is actually trying to get women, particularly Black women, and I worked in community health base, West Side at one point in Henrietta, the underinsured or no insured to get a mammogram. And it's when I ask them why they don't, I don't want to know. Or the other, I don't want anyone to squeeze my breast. And now the quality indicators is every other year. And I'm like, no, you're getting a mammogram every year. And I think being a Black woman, being a provider, is helpful because a lot of times Black women only connect to Black women, and they think that if it's anyone other than Black, they're trying to do something under the,
Right,
you know,
right.
because of our history, the trauma of our history. But one of the things that I took on, you know, PAPS, doing all of those, is breast exams. And with the breast exam, and people coming in with feeling lumps, and I might not felt the lump, but I'm like, no, we're getting a diagnostic mammogram. Oh, I didn't know. Oh, yes, you can always get a diagnostic mammogram. Don't ever tell them, never, you can get one. I don't care if you have a pimple. I cannot sleep at night if you came back. So I think challenging for me, what was challenging for me, because now I'm in private practice for myself, but what was challenging was trying to get them over the fear. And literally in primary care, 15 minutes, you know, I was always running late, like, no, we're gonna commit to this. And I think I appreciate your stories, but I have found that it's been younger and younger women, because it's nothing like feeling the mass and you're like, uh-oh, you know, as a provider, and not panicking them, but in my mind, I'm like, I think she might have cancer. And knowing when I get the results, having to tell that patient, like the amount of therapy or different things, the caregiver needs care too. You know, when you have a lot of cancer diagnoses and 2 males, you know, I looked at one male, he was like, I have this thing on my breast, and I'm like, well, let me see. As soon as I saw it, I knew it was breast cancer. And even trying to get him to get a mammogram, or someone to take him to get a mammogram, like there's so many broken systems in the healthcare industry with getting mammograms and diagnostic mammograms. And for me, I just think the advocacy of continuing to let people know you can get a diagnostic mammogram under the age of 40.
Right.
And a lot of people, that was my thing, they did not know. And so spreading that and just applauding everyone is here. And as a provider, it's challenging to convince people to do something because of the fear.
Yes.
And, you know, I just used fear back at them. I was like, well, what happened to your child? If you had breast cancer, you're a single mother, you know, whatever their history was, that was my way in. What would happen to your grandchildren? You know, grandmothers. I'm a grandmother. You wouldn't even be placed. So that's usually how I get with knowing, because I'm a Black woman, knowing what we love. That's how I advocate, because a lot of people do not, in primary care, don't advocate, or they blow it off. Oh, that's a hair bump. You know, how can you know what it is unless you look at it? You have to get something, an ultrasound, something. You can't just let someone go home and put them on an antibiotic. So that's been my passion since I've been a nurse practitioner for 9 years, is mammograms. Because once you have someone that goes through breast cancer that you know personally, it becomes your mission to make sure no one else can get early detection. Because I think Black women die more because they don't get mammograms. And by the time they get them, it's so advanced where it's the brain to breast. And it's sad when we have all of these preventative measures. So I just applaud this, and I'm so happy to be here and be a part of advocating for mammograms and being the person, if I have to tell them about their reports, that it's someone that looks like them, because that makes the difference, to hold their hand all the way through and to hear their stories when they come back.
What you just shared made me reflect, and I want to comment on something. Therapy is so important. When you are going through breast cancer, whatever cancer, before, during, after, I want all of Black people to know that it is okay to go through therapy, because it is a journey. And sometimes your family and friends, they have different views, biased views, but just having someone who does not know you and who can help you and coach you through the journey is really important.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christy Muhammad, and I am a breast cancer survivor. 2 years from treatment, and this December will be 3 years since my double mastectomy. I just wanted to share that listening to all of your stories is really triggering, and you don't realize how much it affects you until you sit in environments like this and you hear stories. And therapy is very crucial, very important, but I just wanted to share, and not to take up a lot of time, that when I was diagnosed, I was at work. I worked for family court and I was a judge's secretary. And he was on vacation, so I went in his office, closed the door, and that's where I got my news. And immediately I started crying. Then I stood up and faced that big window, and immediately Job came to me, where God told Satan, you can touch him, but you can't have him. And that's how I approached it. I said, okay, he has permitted this into my life, but he's not gonna allow Satan to take me.
Yes.
So, okay, I called my husband, I told him what happened, and I told him, and I talked to my children, they're adults. I said, this is my trial, but it's you all's test. And we gotta go through this. And we gotta be supportive for each other. And my journey, COVID brain and chemo brain do not work. I'm just being honest, chemo brain, COVID brain. If you've had COVID, it took me a minute to get COVID, but eventually I got it. The two, and oh my goodness. And when I got back to work, I told the judge I worked for, I told him, I said, look, you're gonna have to go slow, because things are just not connecting. So, and he was very, very compassionate. He would visit me all the time. He would bring food to the house. And it's just like you always saying, the support is very important. It's a lifelong journey. I'm getting ready to go through another surgery. And it's always, you always need the support. Always need the support. So I just wanted to commend you all. Some of you in the audience I know. I just want to commend you. And we got to stick together, especially for us. And thank you. Thank you all so much.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shellen Holder-Key. Dr. Porterman is my breast surgeon. She didn't do my surgery, but she sees me now, and she is wonderful. I am coming up. I'm a 5-year survivor. Early stage, I had the lumpectomy, and I remember Dr. Porterman when I went to see her after my surgery, the radiation, the chemo, the whole 9 yards. And she asked me about reconstructive surgery. I was like, what? Are you serious? After all that I went through? No. And I thought, no. Now I'm thinking, after you said that, I didn't realize that you could have reconstruction for lumpectomy, because I'm, not balanced. And I'm thinking about it now, but I applaud everybody here. I talk about my journey all the time. I just went through the peer mentor training, and I talk to people all the time. Share, share, share. It is so important, and you do need your community. And I applaud everybody for being here, and this is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tracy Sellers. I am a clinical pharmacist in Delaware. Also a member of lots of civic organizations, sororities, deal a lot with physical and mental health. With breast cancer, we hear a lot about risk factors, some of them non-modifiable, which is what we all share today, a lot of Black women, non-modifiable risk factors, but some of them are modifiable. Things like alcohol use, the density of liquor stores in the neighborhood, environmental mutagens, things like that. So if we were to all get together in Delaware and pool all of our resources and target one area for legislative change, what would you recommend? I just would like to know, what do you think would be the one area to target first, or if there is an area?
Well, I'll answer. I mean, I think that there's been a lot of studies connecting cancer incident rates to zip codes. It's starting to become publicized now. What are we doing with that data? Because I think the data's there, but the legislators don't know what to do with the data, right? And so there's certain zones, zip codes, areas in Newcastle County where they're continuing to develop. They're adding schools, they're building homes, and the homes look good, but what about the people in them?
Yes.
Right. And so I don't think that there's enough being done about that. And those developers, oftentimes, not all, they develop, they've made their money, and they move down to Florida. And we're the ones that are living in those homes. And then suddenly somebody in that house gets diagnosed with something and you're wondering where it came from, right? And then somebody else down the block. And so you just sort of look around and you have people connected to you, whether it be through your church, whether it be a neighbor, a girlfriend, or otherwise. And so you kind of look at all these connections and say, what are we doing? And so I really would impress upon the legislators to look at the data and put action behind it, because right now I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
Hello, good evening. Is this on? Y'all can hear me? Okay. So my name is Renee Holland. I am a breast cancer survivor. 28th of this month, I think I will be 4 years because I had my chemo and radiation during COVID too. But one of the questions that I've always had in the back of my mind, and Dr. Quarterman, you mentioned younger and younger women being diagnosed. I was diagnosed at 40. I had a mammogram at 38, no findings. I had a mammogram at 40, no findings. I was stage 3. The mammogram did not detect it. But one of the things that I want to ask about with the younger population is birth control. Is there a connection between birth control and breast cancer, since they are both hormonal? And what are we doing to educate our teenage girls on the prolonged use of birth control and the potential side effects such as breast cancer?
I asked you that.
Yeah, that's a good question, Renee. I love your first name. So actually, traditionally, we think that oral contraceptives might reduce the risk of breast cancer. But why are women developing breast cancer at younger and younger ages? There are other things that are hormone disruptors, for instance, hair relaxers. Hair dyes, particularly black hair dye. We know those products are associated with increasing the risk for breast and endometrial cancer. So that can have something to do with it. Also, what's in our food? What are the hormones that are being pumped into the cows that are giving us the burgers?
Chicken.
And the chicken and all of that. The pesticides that keep our corn clean and ready to eat. There are a lot of things that are affecting our hormones, not just the obvious things like our oral contraceptives that play roles.
We have time for one more question. Just one more.
I'm Priscilla Artist, and I was checking to see and questioning. I have two sisters that are breast cancer survivors, but then my daughter started feeling lumps in her breast. And I believe she had her first mammogram at 34. So should we be concerned at the fact that it is hereditary in our line and the fact that she should continue to get these mammograms, or where should we go from here? Because she had a case where her primary physician kept saying, no, don't worry about it. And she kept, so finally, and then she went to get a mammogram, and then they kept telling her, you're too young to get a mammogram. You're too young.
So I would say there are calculators that are available to all healthcare providers free of charge that we can, and I think should use for all women aged 25 and up. So for your daughter, for instance, it sounds like if we put her into the calculator, we might be able to justify that she starts screening for breast cancer at age 35. So that's important for women to do, because if you get that data, then insurance companies can't really argue back that you can't get imaging done if your risk is above a certain level. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I guess one more.
No. Hi, Dr. Scantlebury. I just wanted to add a comment to the question that was raised about the incidents in Wilmington. And one of the things that was presented by Scott Siegel from the Cancer Research at Helen Graham was that they're based on data looking at triple negative breast cancer in Delaware. I see here in Newcastle County, there are 2 hotspots. One is in Wilmington, on the east side, and in Bear, where there's higher number of triple negative breast cancer at an advanced age. And so this is information that needs to be researched, to look into, and we know that whether it's lack of access to mammogram, because when you look at how many people are getting, why is it at an advanced stage? And also in terms of one of the things I brought up to one of the councilmen is that 1 in 5 women with triple negative breast cancer linked to alcohol use. So therefore you look at the percentage of liquor stores that are popping up all over the place in relation to better food or even just medical care, access to care, the food, our diets, what we're drinking, even the water. So I say that to say that yes, there are some, is it environmental, is it epigenetics, whatever it is, there certainly is a higher incidence within 2 particular areas within Newcastle County.
Great, thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, wow, learned a lot.
Isn't
that
something?
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And I think Tracy back there was sort of hitting on that as well. There are the factors that we can control as women, and then there are the things, the modifiable factors, and there are the ones that are not modifiable. When I talk to patients about their health care, actually, I say, we're all big pie charts, right? There's diet, there's exercise, there's genetics, there's environment, there's stress. You know, we don't talk about the stress, but we know that we are managing a tremendous amount of stress. And stress creates inflammation in your body, and that sets off a whole nother chain reaction. And so it's really important for us, and we've all talked about going out and talking to our friends, to our neighbors, but really talk about the modifiable factors, the things that you can control. Know your family history. It's spot on when you talk about saying, how many times I've talked to a patient and they've said, I don't know. And they're just like, I don't know. I'm thinking, no, this is really important because this is how we set up how we decide what your treatment plan, what your care plan is going to look like, right? Because the only way that we can look towards the future and understand what your trajectory is going to be from a healthcare perspective is to understand where you've been, and where you've been is a reflection of your genetics and knowing your family history. So that cannot be stated enough, the importance. But again, to the point of modifiable factors, healthy foods, choosing the healthy foods, choosing foods that are not processed or ultra processed. You talked about liquor stores. There's a Dollar General literally on every corner with ultra processed foods. So even when you walk in those stores, there is a fresh frozen food section. I would encourage everyone to go to the frozen foods instead, right? Because they are not ultra processed foods. But just to be thinking a little bit more about how do I invest in my body in a different way than I have the day before, and I'm looking forward to investing in my future. And that is really by making those different choices and then really sharing that with your friends and your loved ones and your neighbors, right? Okay. All right. Parting thoughts for everybody. Tanya, we'll start with you. Oh, God. Sorry, you're right next to me. You're right next to me, so I couldn't help it. You're like, yes, parting thoughts. Takeaways. Oh, no. Last messaging for everybody. You want me to come back to you?
Yeah, come back to
Okay. Brianna, let's come to you.
My parting thought is that breast cancer doesn't have an age, doesn't have a look. We know now also it doesn't have a gender. We know it doesn't have to happen after the designated time for you to get your first mammogram. It can happen before that. So it's important to make room and make time in all of our busy schedules to get those mammograms. From the comment that was made about individuals being under insured, there are a lot of programs and a lot of grant programs out there for if your insurance does not cover, look outward on the internet. Live Strong was a great resource to me, but there are a lot of grant programs that are filling in those gaps for those that are underinsured. And so really do that research to look to that. Don't just say this is what I was given and this is what my insurance may or may not cover and that's the end. And so I'll continue to share my story because I hope that I can be encouraging to others and let them know that cancer does not have to look sick. Right after you get over it, you can still look good afterwards.
That's right.
But, you know, the scripture, by Jesus' stripes, we are healed. I am healed. And so I'm before you guys today. Sharing that. So thank you.
Oh, and I echo exactly what Brianna just said, but I also want to mention that early detection is the key.
Yes.
We do not want to lose another sister, another brother to breast cancer. It is not a cancer that should be the end result. So make sure, ladies, gents, that you are checking your breast. If you feel something, go to the doctor. And what I also would like for everyone to know is that chemotherapy, radiation, it is not the way that it is, the journey is not the way that it's portrayed in movies and television shows where people are vomiting. They come up with so many different regimens to help you. And so I don't want anyone to say, no, I'm not going to go through that because I'm afraid to go through it. Right. Trust me, you have so many survivors in this room. We are testaments to, you can and will beat it. Early detection is the key.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
I love that.
You ready? Dr. Quarterman? Dr. Quarterman.
So I would say two things. So it's October, we're getting into November, December, the holiday season. Most of us are going to be spending a lot of time with family. Start the annual tradition of just talking to your relatives, asking those questions. So you talked about Aunt so-and-so last year. Did you ever find out what kind of cancer she had? Just get that information and get as much detail as possible. That's helpful for you. That's helpful for your whole family. The other thing I would say, we're talking about resources to get support to make mammograms affordable. Delaware is rich with resources. It's just a matter of finding them. The state of Delaware, our state government has resources. Delaware Breast Cancer Coalition. There's a group called Unite for Her. Helen Graham, the breast center at Christiana, the big breast imaging centers in the state, they are connected to resources. So if you're trying to find a way to get your patients covered or you are looking for yourself, just start asking, go online, because there are resources available.
Awesome. Thank you. Anything else? No?
Like what they said. What they said.
What they said. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. We hope you learned a lot this evening about breast cancer surveillance. I would like to thank our panelists, Brianna Denby, Tanya Moore, April Reynolds, and Dr. Renee Quarterman for sharing their experiences. Thank you. Thank you. I also like to send a special shout out to Dr. Velma Scantlebury, Dr. Joan Coker, Felicia Stallings, the co-founders of our organization, Delaware Health Equity Coalition, Paige Bonet, producer of this episode, and the incomparable Ivan Thomas, founder and CEO of DETV, for his support of healthcare, especially women's healthcare in Delaware. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good evening.